all have our trials, but we're never alone. That's what makes our trials triumphant. Trials and Triumphs with your host, Pastor Ladina Boo.
Good morning, it's Ladina Boo from Stockton, Missouri. It's good to be with you again this week. You can see I do not have a guest because I wanted to talk to the younger generation for the most part. My heart hurts for the younger generation. So many of them are angry and filled with rage, and so many are living in anguish, confusion, and fear. Our children and young adults are being fed lies by just about every institution in our nation. And they're like ravenous wolves out there. They're hungry for the hearts, minds, blood, and souls of our young people. I should add that their bodies, as well as the sexualization and exploitation of children and young adults, has become sickeningly normalized. Our first and second graders, our kindergartners do not need to see full frontal nudity and everything that they're teaching in our schools. It's ridiculous. I hate what our culture has done to our young people. We've allowed them to be brainwashed with lies, including the lie that the best they can hope for in this life is to indulge their carnal, hedonistic desires with an attitude of entitlement. No limits, no rules, no right, no wrong. Everything is relative, and everyone gets a trophy simply for existing. I hope to reach some of the young people out there with this message, those who are feeling lost and disconnected, without purpose, and angry. I look at my news every day, and some young person has shot someone or beat them in the streets, beat them with, traffic cones and things of that nature, and so many guns running around. Now, I'm under no delusion that the kids and young adults I want to reach are listening to this message on their Christian station here. Um, and certainly the chances of them taking the time to read this, if I put the transcript up on the internet or to print it, are next to zero. I know that. But young people, my hope is that someone who loves you will take the time to share this information with you. You see, they love you. They care so deeply for your life and your soul. And they know that something has gone terribly wrong in the world and you have become a victim to it. You've been lied to, tricked, and trapped, and you need to know that the truth will free you. Most likely, you won't listen to those who love you. You don't care what they have to say. You think they don't know you and don't understand you, or modern life, or what you deal with, with, and go through on a daily basis. They may have done their best but failed, or maybe they haven't even tried to maintain a close personal relationship with you. So, how dare they try to suddenly insert themselves into your private affairs and fix you? You don't think that you need fixing, and you certainly don't want to discuss personal things with them, especially if you're going to challenge or question everything you believe. For some reason, you're not quite sure of you're angry or why you're angry. Um, you're very angry, but you won't listen to them. Maybe you'll listen to me. I'm a stranger. Just give me a chance and hear me out. That's all I ask. Allow me to ask a couple of questions. First, if what you thought you knew about life and the world turned out to be wrong, when do you want to know? Think about that. If you if what you thought you knew was wrong, when would you want to know? Secondly, whether you're 17, 27, or 10 years old, I assume you know someone younger than yourself, perhaps a younger brother or sister or cousin. If you're 27, let me ask you this. Do you think you're just a little smarter or a little more educated and enlightened than you were when you were 17? And if you're 17, do you think you know a little bit more about life than you did when you were 10? And if you're 10, do you think just maybe you've been around a little longer and learned a few more things than your 2-year-old baby sister. If you're asking, I'm asking you to give me a chance here and try to hear what I'm saying and trying to share with you because I am quite a bit older. I'll be 65 in October. And if you're so much wiser than your counterparts who are 8 or 10 years younger than you, consider for a moment that I may just have learned a few things since I was 10, 17, or 27, things that you're not aware of yet. You can write me off as a right wing crackpot if you like, but I just ask you to hear me out before you plug your ears or shout me down. Young people want their voices heard. We all want our voices heard. Will you give me the same consideration that you value so highly for yourself? The same consideration that you say all people should receive? Or will you be a hypocrite? Young people are very idealistic, and that's a good thing. They want to make the world a better place. They want to do away with injustice. They want the right to right the things that are wrong. They want to live in a world where the underdog gets a shot at success and where the bullies are punished and where the good guys win and the bad guys get what's coming to them. But don't we all want that? Of course we do. It makes no difference how old you are. Everyone wants justice, equality, and fairness. But as I watch the world around me today, I'm sickened by what I'm seeing. I'm seeing young people being exploited and blatantly lied to and brainwashed into useful idiots, eagerly doing the bidding of those who pull the strings in a sinister, wicked, evil agenda. And my generation has largely stood by silently and let it all happen. For the most part, we've said nothing as things have deteriorated in our culture. In some cases, we even participated in the deterioration. Shame on us. First of all, young people understand this. There are sinister, evil, wicked forces out there, and you are their most valued target. The mask they wear gives the impression that they're working for good, but nothing could be further from the truth because they're straight from the pits of hell and they're working hard to brainwash you. Yes, you have been lied to by almost every institution there is. We're at a place in America and the world now where everything has become vulgar, perverse, and twisted. Walk in the hallways of any public school between classes, and you'll hear the most foul, vulgar language coming out of the mouths of babes who think they're more grown up because they can swear, just like their music idols. I walk the hallways of our public school. I go in and I can go into school and walk up and down and pray for those children any day of the week. And then I see them coming out of class, and a lot of them I've seen in churches are some of the most vulgar mouth people you could run into. Why? It's not showing you're intelligent in any fashion whatsoever. It's showing that you don't know how to command the English language and say something without cursing. You know, we talk about those music idols. The majority of what passes for pop music today is an abomination, and it's filled with sexist, racist, degrading lyrics. And while young people claim to be against such awful things, they have no problem dancing and singing along to the pounding beat of their favorite rapper while he or she spews vulgarity and everything they claim to be against. That's the brainwashing, guys. It's no wonder so many today can't speak a single sentence without dropping 15 F bombs. Trust me, I've got kids, I've got grandkids. I hear the F bomb quite frequently. They know I'm a pastor, but that doesn't stop anybody these days. In our places of so called higher learning, civil discourse is no longer allowed. If you don't hold the leftist liberal agenda, you're shouted down, chased out, and your voice is not welcome. A few years ago, they came out with a thing called microaggressions on high school and college campuses. These are crimes students might commit by inadvertently saying or doing something that could possibly be construed as sexist, racist, or somehow otherwise offensive. Now, I've seen college professors go into a pro life booth whenever it's the opening time for any kind of college discourse and throw papers for pro life activism on the floor, tear them up, saying, "Get out of here. We don't want you here." Why? Why are you allowing them to construe your mind in such a fashion that you think being pro life is somehow aggressive towards you? You know, examples of microaggressions could be holding a door for a young lady, because that would be considered misogyny and sexist. Or a white person having the nerve to point out that the content of one's character is what matters, not the color of one's skin, because then you're considered a racist. Conservative speakers are not allowed on college campuses anymore for the most part. They're literally run out of town. Some have even been physically beaten up. So much for freedom of speech, diversity of opinion, and civil debate. That's brainwashing. There's been a spiritual war, a spiritual battle raging since the beginning of time between the forces of good and the forces of evil, the forces of light versus the forces of darkness, God versus Satan. As a created being, Satan has no power except that which God, our Creator, allows him to have. But for a time, he has been granted power over the earth, and he and his minions, including demons and the people who have rejected God, rebel against God and despise God, and are working hard to lie, steal, kill, confuse, and ultimately destroy our young people. Young people are the greatest prize because they're the future. Brainwash a person from the earliest of childhood, and they'll become a useful idiot and willing slave to the demonic agenda for life. Thus, we have a push now for what they call sexual freedom. But that's not freedom, it's perversion, abomination, and absolutely unnatural. The LGBTQP plus agenda has wormed its way into schools and colleges, Hollywood movies, pop music, sports, government, and even churches. Under the guise of equality and using phrases like love is love and love wins, they've managed to brainwash perfectly healthy minds into believing some abominable lies. Now, I know I'm going to offend a few people here, but homosexually, or more properly stated, sodomy, is not normal and absolutely unnatural. It has nothing to do with genuine love. It's not only accepted, but taught now in our schools and even celebrated in some of our churches. How did we arrive at this point? By renaming it, by reframing it so it sounds better. No longer do we call it sodomy. Now we call it gay. But let's shine the light on the truth on what they're really talking about here. We're not talking about Bobby and Timmy living together and identifying in whatever sexual role they freely choose. We're talking about a man inserting a sexual organ into the rectum of another man. Sorry to be so blunt, but that's what sodomy is. And it's time we called it what it is. And go back to all the law books in your state and look and see the fact that sodomy is illegal. But we're celebrating it. We're putting up all these gay pride flags. We're mutilating our children in order to turn our little boy into a girl or a little girl into a boy. You know, today our young people are encouraged to experiment as groups like Planned Parenthood have overtaken the sexual education classes in our public schools. You know, that's just sick to me. You know, so sodomy and now transgenderism is actually being pushed on our young people. Do you wonder why so many now are coming out as gay or trans? It's the brainwashing. It's all the lies they've been taught to not only accept, but consider and try out for themselves. That's totally wicked. Equally wicked is the fact that those who are pushing for legalization, acceptance, and celebration of pedophilia. We're talking about child abuse, child rape, child sex trafficking, and they're no longer even trying to hide that anymore. Look at all the gay pride stuff. Look at the you know, drag queen story hours or drag shows, drag parades, women who dress up their little boys as girls and allow them to flaunt themselves all the way down the street and wiggle their butts so that they can draw attention. And going into a dressing room with grown men who are standing there putting on their dresses, but they've got all of their parts hanging out. That's abuse. That is trying to pervert the mind of a child. And the school system is doing a bang up job on perverting the minds of our children. They want to say that the teacher knows best and the teacher needs to run the classroom and that parents shouldn't know what's going on there. You know, most school districts these days, well, not most, a lot of the school districts these days, um, if you choose to go by a different pronoun, the school is not allowed to tell your parents. Those children were given to the parents by the Lord, and they should raise them in fear and admonition of the Lord. And so, all of this stuff about trying to turn them little boy into a little girl or a little girl into a boy, it doesn't work. Okay, you're never going to be a girl. If you're a boy, you're never going to be a girl. You're never going to breastfeed your children. You're not going to give birth to anybody. At the rate we're going now, I say in 2 generations, we won't have any children in this country anymore because nobody knows what they are. Look at your birth certificate, okay? The Lord gave you a birth. He made them male and female. You know, we can't let all of this stuff go by and not say something about it. Our children deserve better and they deserve to know the truth. And we need to be able to teach them that. And if your school is teaching this stuff to your children, get them out of there. Homeschool. Take them someplace where they are not changing our history of our country. They're not trying to convince children that, oh, you're gay or you're transgender or you ought to do this. And we're not going to tell your parents it's okay. We're teaching our children to lie. We're teaching them to lie to their parents about what's going on. You know, the parent is still the parent. Our children do not belong to the United States government or to your local school district or the teachers in their classrooms. Your parents are the parents are the ones who are in charge of those children. And whenever you negate your responsibilities and allow the world to teach your children, we end up with the chaos that's going on in our country. You know, you have got to take responsibility for that and you've got to teach your children properly. You know, this thing about, being encouraged to experiment, because Planned Parenthood has taken over the sex education classes. And so they're brainwashing those kids to not only accept something, but to consider and try it out for themselves. How wicked is that? Do you want those people teaching your children that they need to go out and experiment sexual things with one another? Or, was reading a news article about a 6-year-old girl, 6 years old, and they had had a sex education class, and other boys, her age, had shoved her under a desk to do fellatio on another student, and they filmed it on an iPad, and they were showing everybody. And the teacher was in the classroom, but she didn't notice what was going on. I'm not going to buy that. Those classrooms aren't that big. She said she was busy with another group, and so she didn't understand what was going on. She had not seen that. And the school does nothing. I know that a friend of mine, she contacted the state education department here in Missouri a few weeks back. And because we have a lot of bullying going on in our school. And I don't understand bullies anyway, but a lot of bullying, and they had a, you know, kill so and so club and everything. I won't say her name. She's a beautiful child, but she called the state Department of Education to ask what could be done. The State Department of Education said that they're not allowed to do anything to the bullies. It doesn't matter if they're beating up another kid or they're beating up a teacher, that they're not supposed to interfere. Now, what happened to the days where you'd send them to the principal's office and they get swats, you know, or get suspended from school? They're not even allowed to do that, you know, and that's coming down from the state. So if you're not going to get any help from the state and you're not getting any help from the principal or you're not getting any help from the police department, what are you going to do? You know, nobody's going to help you. They're going to say the kids are theirs, but they're not going to help rectify the situation because they're not allowed. Equally wicked is the fact that they are now pushing for legalization, acceptance, and celebration of pedophilia. We're talking about child abuse, rape, sex trafficking, and they're no longer even trying to hide it. You know, young people are once again the victims as they seek to emulate their pop music idols, singing and dancing the filthy songs. And the culture of our young people, that's the culture our young people are growing up in. And when a baby is conceived, they've been taught to be proud to have an abortion. Shout your abortion, they say. More lies, more brainwashing. Those wielding the agenda hide the fact that an abortion is actually the beheading and dismemberment of a real live human baby. Instead, they reframe it to sound good. It's such a thing were possible. They call it women's health care and female empowerment. Let's call it what it is. It's murder. The devil's real, folks. Now we're seeing our young people being used as pawns by groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Again, more lies. After years of indoctrination by government schools and colleges with history rewritten and the truth erased, we now have young people growing up hating their own country and their own heritage. We now have white kids who are so confused and upset they hate themselves just because they're white. And so they do what they've been trained to do. They rage. So now we have these young people rioting in the streets, burning down their own cities, tearing down historical monuments and statues celebrating our history, and those who fought for their freedom. Antifa is supposed to stand for anti-fascist. But if you take a moment and think critically and investigate, you'll see there is no more fascist group in the world than Antifa. Black Lives Matter is supposed to support Black people. But again, if you do even a minimal amount of research into their goals and agenda, you'll find it's more lies and brainwashing. Can you name one thing that Black Lives Matter has done to positively impact Black communities? Most of the articles I read these days about Black Lives Matter is about the fact that people who started it collected all the money. They live a great big lavish lifestyle. They've spent every penny you've got in the Black Lives Matter movement on their personal agendas. They don't care about you. They just want to sow hate and discontent in our world. You know, you cannot find anything that the Black Lives Matter movement has done to positively impact our Black communities. That's because, like their father, the devil, all they plan to do is kill, steal, and destroy. The goal of both of these groups is the same: to destroy America and turn it into a Marxist, socialist, communist nation. There's no reason for that. Stand up, learn your rights, learn what you can do in order to try to stop this stupidity. But the lies and brainwashing are so heavy on our young people, they think that's a good thing. Antifa is not anti fascist. They want complete control, totalitarian rule. So if you're a young person and one of their minions, know this: you are not fighting for freedom. You are fighting for your own enslavement. The same is true of Black Lives Matter. If Black Lives Matter, and of course they do, then all Black lives should matter, especially the most innocent and vulnerable among them, unborn babies. But all lives truly do matter. You may not realize it, but you've been trained to hate. Instead of being inclusive or diverse, like they told you you'd be, you've become filled with rage and most intolerant of all. Instead of bringing about justice and righteousness, you've become bigoted, racist bullies. You won't tolerate hearing the truth. You will not tolerate anything that goes against why you've been trained to think the way you do. Wake up. You got a brain? Think for yourself. Stop buying into all these lies. Young people, if you want freedom, if you want justice, if you want good rather than evil in this world, you must do away with the brainwashing and challenge yourself to study and learn on your own. In order to be successful, you have to force yourself to learn the things you don't want to learn, the things that go against all that you've been taught by your teachers, by pulp culture, and by simply living in this fallen world of lies. Finally, know this: there is a God who created you. He created you with value and purpose, and you're living at this exact time and point in time for that purpose. You can either go along with the crowd or you can be countercultural. You can either be like everyone else your age, or you can stand out from the crowd and be one of God's heroes in this end time spiritual battle and save not just lives, but souls currently bound for hell. No interest in God? That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. I wouldn't have thought that you would give up so easily and let the enemy of your soul just take you. You're smarter than that. Think for yourself instead of following the lies you've been taught. If you've never opened a Bible, do it. If you truly seek God, he will reveal himself to you. Check it out and see if I'm wrong. Let me ask you again. If you thought you knew about what was new turned out to be wrong, when would you want to know it? I want to know it before it all gets really bad. If I'm walking down a path that is going to hurt me or hurt my children or hurt my neighbor or anyone else, I want the Lord walking with me. I want to know what I'm doing wrong. I may not like you for a few minutes if I tell you what you're doing wrong. I'm still a person. I still get angry. But I will go back and I will think on what you told me. I will study on it. I will pull out my Bible. I will pull out law books, whatever I need to do in order to figure out your position and my position and see where the two have commonality and how we can figure out a way to work together instead of raging against everything in our world. They're teaching you lies. A lot of the churches are teaching you lies. If you've got a Bible, if you can't understand your Bible, go get a different version. Okay? I understand the King James Version is difficult. But if you can't understand the King James, you've got a New King James. You've got an English Standard Version. You've got it amplified. You can find a Bible that you can understand and see what the world should be like. And then I want you to go and I want you to get a copy of the Bill of Rights and our United States Constitution and read those first 10 amendments to the Constitution of our nation. Look at what freedoms we were given and what freedoms, if you study on it right now, they're taking away from you. You're not accomplishing anything towards freedom whenever you have to have your safe zone in college because you don't want somebody, hurting your feelings in whatever fashion. And right now, there's a bunch of snowflakes out there, okay? We don't need snowflakes. We need fire. We need people that stand up and speak truth. Whenever they tell you lies about how our nation was formed or tell you lies about the Civil War wasn't started over slavery. The Civil War was started over taxes. And all you people that want to come up there and say you're owed reparations because your um, family was black and they were slaves, come on, study some more history. We had as many Chinese slaves and Irish slaves and everything else in this nation. But for whatever reason, all you can do is focus on the black slaves. Fine, maybe there were more. But go back and read history again, and you'll find out that the first black slave owned in this country was owned by a black man. Okay? We're not all racist. It wasn't just white people who owned slaves. You went into a debtor's court, and this young man, he owed another black man a lot of money. And so he ended up a slave to work off his debt. You know, I don't know why everything is black and white and black and white. We are all people. It's just like hyphenated Americans. Okay, we don't need hyphenated Americans. It doesn't matter if you're a Latino American or a Black American or a Chinese American or a Jewish American. Why can't we all just be Americans? Let's be proud of our country. Let's stop the hyphenation and the division. It's like hyphenated Christianity. That doesn't work either. If you're a Christian, you should be a Christian. You don't have to have a hyphen in front of it. I'm uh, whatever. I'm a Methodist American. No, I'm not. I am an American. That's it. And so, let's stop all of this hate and discontent and the division that we're bringing about. Stop listening to the lies that are going on. Stop and look in a book. Open your computer. Do something to figure out what this nation was built on. And stop all this raging and hate and discontent. I don't know how many kids were just killed over our holiday weekend. You know, Last time I stopped counting, it was like 51. And that's kids killing kids. Why? Stop being so angry. You haven't been around on this earth long enough to develop that much anger. You're only getting that angry because of what has been told to you, and what's been told to you is lies. Our school system lies to you, the television lies to you, and you cannot take that and decide, okay, I am now going to be an activist and for whatever purpose and go out and just start beating people up. If you see a police officer and he's struggling with somebody, stop and help him. Don't stand there and cheer on the guy that's beating up the cop. And so many people are stepping up more these days to try to get back to what's right and get away from all these lies. And instead of being celebrated as the heroes they are for uh, shutting down a big fight or shutting down a fight in a parking lot or shutting down the fight in a mall or anything of that nature, they're belittled. They're attacked by people. They did the God given truth and light and so forth out to these others, and they're just knocked down every time you turn around. We have our young people going around in gangs and robbing stores, and for some reason somebody has stopped prosecuting that. We allow it, and then we wonder why, you know, things are so bad. State Farm Insurance over this past week decided they're never going to sell their insurance in California any longer because everybody wants to break into houses and destroy things, and they're losing way too much money, and it is capitalist nation. I know that. There's nothing wrong with capitalism, okay? If you don't have people that just take everything and put you under their thumb, it's a good thing. You'll be able to grow your business, decide that you want to do something and work towards that and get in a financial position that makes you so much greater in the eyes of the world and probably in your own eyes. How are you going to get rich by robbing people? You know, that's not going to work for you. All it's going to do is send you a trip to the jail or prison. You know, let's have a little common sense and some decency with one another. You don't just badmouth people because they're a different color. You know, I had kids in my house. They were black, white, Mexican. There was a Chinese kid and so forth. And they were different gangs, Latin Counts and Crips and Bloods. But you know what? They didn't fight in my house. They sat at the same table. They prayed with me over a meal. And it was only whenever they got back out with all the fools that they were running around with that got them into a gang that they started being stupid again. They were lied to. Stop believing these lies. Start taking care of your neighbors. Start taking care of yourself. Start taking care of your families. You know, get everybody back on even footing and stop all this raging everywhere in our nation. You know, you have been lied to. And that's where I come from to the beginning. You've lied to in school. You're lied to in your neighborhood. You're lied to on the news. You know, stop believing their lies and start thinking with the brain that the Lord gave you. You know, we all have a brain we need to use. And if you don't want people, messing with you, stop messing with them. Okay, there's no reason for it. We have all got to learn to get along. You go and get a job. You may not like somebody you work with, but if you like the job and so forth, you'll work through that discontent, and you will find a way to communicate with one another. That's what we've all got to do. There's going to be a lot of people that you don't like in the world. But if you would stop and just take two steps back and realize they are people too, they've got their own issues. And so you can't just rage against everything. All it's getting you right now is dead at an early age. And I don't want to see anybody dead. So I'm asking you, please stop believing the lies and stop going on with all of that. There's no reason for it. And so my time is about up. And so I have to put out a shout out to some guy, though. My daughter has a camper sitting in my front yard. And the lovely people at Woods Mobile Camper Repair have been at my house every day over this holiday weekend. And they didn't charge me to come out there. So I want to be nice to them. I'm trying to get him for a sponsor. Okay. So if you need your camper repaired, then call Woods Mobile Camper Repair. If you want a phone number, you can always email me at pastorlb@axmediagroup.com. We're going to start a new show this month, the last Sunday of the month, fourth Sunday of the month, called Black Road Patriots with Dr. Cindy and myself. And I hope that you have the opportunity to tune in there. And otherwise, our Wednesday lineup is always the same, and we'd love to see you here. And if you have nothing else to do, go press the donate button at axmediagroup.com. Thank you.